to this eGMAT overview session. First of all, I want to thank Selby. I want to thank KST, who was just here, and everyone at GMAT Club for hosting this event, bringing all of us together. Um and just it's just good for me to see you guys. It's good for me to see other experts from other prep companies as well. It's an event where we get to meet each other. Otherwise, it's very rare that we see each other face to face or talk to each other. So that's really good. This is also a way where I am my annual cadence with Charles. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rajat Sadana. I'm one of the co-founders of eGMAT. I'm going to be your main host today. I have Salvi who will be supporting me. I have Sandeep from the eGMAT team who'd be here as well. Um, so I've done these events a few times in the past, and I've had elaborate presentation. But I thought in this event, what I'm going to really talk about is what makes eGMAT different. And for those of you who've gone through the GMAT Club review portion, or if you've gone through share GMAT experience, one of the things that you'd notice is the disproportionate number of reviews that we have, the kind of success that our students produce. And so I'm going to talk about 6 or 7 things that enable that success. And rather than just talk in theory, I'm going to actually show real student accounts, because a lot of the success that we produce is an outcome of either the methods or the data architecture that we have. And I think showing's a lot better than just talking about that data architecture here. So why do we GMAT students win? And I think just what winning is over here is, if you look at statistical data over the last few years, what you're going to realize is the majority of 655 or higher scorers, or if you are from the old GMAT or the classical GMAT as we call it, 710 or higher scorers are from eGMAT or are eGMAT students here. So what enables such success? And I'd say there's no one thing that enables a success, but there's just principle of we teach you the methods that are scalable, and then we channelize your energy in the right direction, and the combination of these two factors enables our students to succeed faster, to actually get higher scores, and that's kind of what I think pushes the envelope over here. So when you think about those 7 things, number one is teaching you how to approach questions, but number two to number 7 is purely about channelizing your energy, making sure that you spend your energy on areas where you get the most bang for your buck, and you don't spend your energy on areas where you're already very good. So I'm going to start with methods, and then as I go through each one of these, what we will do is we'll share some links, and so for example, if you need a personalized study plan, we have an AI based planning tool that can create a phenomenal plan for you. We will open some slots up for you as well. So let's start with what the methods are. What does that feedback every 30-minute mean? How does personalized planning help? How does it start channelize your energy on day 0? What are these metrics? And then we're going to go through this. So at eGMAT, we follow a very first principles approach where when it comes to helping you ace quant, verbal, or DI, we want to make sure that we build the fundamentals. Those who already have the fundamentals, we build on top of them. Those who don't have the fundamentals, we actually start from the very basics, where we teach how do you read a sentence, how do you comprehend passages, and so on and so forth. We've actually a dedicated course for it. And regardless of whether you're someone who's starting at a 20th percentile or an 80th percentile, you go through these courses. It fills the gaps that you have. So master comprehension is a course that natives and non-natives love. It's not directly tested on the GMAT, but it sets the foundation of how do you read a sentence once, how do you read a passage, how do you visualize that, how you build that mental map. So when you think about MSR, when you think about RC, when you think about DPA, those are information dense passages. Building that mental map helps there. Once you have that, then we start with helping you teach pre-thinking. Pre-thinking is a term that we coined in 2011. We built 3 formal approaches to pre-thinking. Each one better than the other, and the last one was something that we coined in 2020 here. Think of pre-thinking as reading the argument, thinking about what could strengthen, weaken, what assumptions does the author make, how do you go about evaluating. So depending on the question type, you think of at least one potential good answer, and then you have a framework, and then you evaluate the answer choices there. So we have a very deliberate framework on how do you go about pre-thinking, how do you go about finding that one strengthener, one way in which you could resolve the paradox, one uh, a way to express the role played by a bold-faced statement, one way to really say, if you're talking about TPA, uh, how what could be an assumption, what versus what could be a strengthener over here, and using those frameworks, we help you build those skills so that applying that framework becomes second nature. And once that happens, you actually see your accuracy go up. So we've had students who've scored a perfect score on the GMAT. I'm actually going to show you Shrutav's account. We've had students who started from a very low score and gone on to score 750, 755 or so. I can show you their account as well. And all of them go through this entire rigor of going through pre-thinking. So here's a student who I believe she went from a 545 or a 555 to a 695. When you look at her course dashboard here, um, you will see how pre-thinking is integrated here. So you start with learning inference, but then in assumption, this is where we introduce the concept of pre-thinking, and then you can really see how we teach pre-thinking from various argument structures there. So you have logical gap type arguments where you compare two entities over here, where you compare segments, in general, where entities and segment comparison is there. So again, we go in depth, and this is just in the context of assumption, but as you go forward, you see the same thing happen in evaluate, in strengthen, weaken, etc. Okay, so that's the right methods here, and these extend to quant in terms of process skills. These extend to owning the data set in terms of DI, and owning the data set is very similar to how you'd approach a case study method where we synthesize the data. We actually sometimes build data tables there, and you might think that this is something that takes a lot of time, but when you get down to it, you actually end up saving a ton of time using these methods here. Now, that was about channelizing your energy. So teaching you the right method. The next thing is about channelizing your energy in towards the right direction. And when you think about test prep, the classical approach to test prep is, you study, you practice, and you take a mock or you take a few mocks and you hope you're doing well. Um, when we built eGMAT, so when Pyle and I went about building eGMAT, we wanted to make this a bit more deterministic. Both of us are engineers at heart, and uncertainty. If you think about an engineer, we don't like uncertainty. We like certainty. So what we did was we really said, hey, when you are learning in that first phase over there, we need to be able to evaluate your learning and then give you feedback right then and there, so that if you're doing well, you should move forward with confidence. If you're not doing well, you should revise that topic. Either way, there shouldn't be a gap in your learning. So what we did was, with every learning activity, we actually introduced, we had inbuilt assessments. We actually had grading. So because we've had about 100,000 students go through these activities, we can rank you there. So every activity gets a score out of 100. Every activity gets a grade here. You can really see here you have A grades. If you're in the top 15 percentile of students, you get an A grade. If you are in the 16th to 50th percentile, you get a B grade. And if you stop paying attention, as you would see over here with Leela over here, if you are in the 49th to 49 percentile or below, you get C grades here. And the beauty of this is that these grades happen real time. So if you've gotten a B grade, you know that you need to revise this activity. Now here you can really see Leela has 100%, but she has a B grade. Why? Because the grade's always on the first attempt. So in her first attempt, she probably got a 70 on this, and then she got a B grade over here. Same thing in this over here, assumption practice. She has a C grade, but she probably attempted this a few times. And you can, as you go into this, you can see her attempts. Her first attempt was 25%, and then she revised this. So because she was able to see that that her grade's not great, she revised this. Her gaps were filled, and which is why Let's just go into CR once again. Um, she was able to do well. I'm going to show you her metrics here. But so when you think about a course, you have 100+ grades there, and we said there has to be a better way to aggregate these grades. So we built a neural network that would take these grades at a course level and aggregate them at a learning level here. So you have LL0, LL1, so learning level 0, learning level 1, and so on and so forth. And there's a neural network that takes this into account. And the reason why we did that was because we wanted these grades to mean something to you. So here in Leela's case, again, you can see it's the same set of activities against which these grades are. She did really well. She faltered in LL1. She actually, we did an intervention towards mid of LL2 because we saw that she wasn't improving. And that intervention started to take shape around middle of learning level 2. And this was around the weekend module within the course. And then you can see her come back. She did really well in LL3, but prior to that, she actually went back and revised everything. So whatever those gaps were, they were filled, and that's why she did really well in LL3 over here, or learning level 3. Okay. So those are great, and these are tremendous here, and you're going to really see, regardless of whether you're someone who ends up with a 755 or whether you end up with a 675. If you don't do well at the foundation stage, it's going to be very hard for you to do well later on. Okay. The other piece that we do is every student gets a customized study plan. I'm going to show you Leela's study plan here. So we have this focused this study planner, which on day 0 tells you how much time you need to spend on each and every subsection here. So if I go about creating this plan, so actually, let me just go back. Someone messed up with her plan, but even when you're starting with very high abilities here, you can really see it tells you how long you need to spend in each of the subsections. Where do you need to spend that time? And on day 0, you really get where do you need to start from in each one of these. Which dates would you be doing which course here, etc., etc. And that plan is then mapped to a calendar, and because Leela has done everything, that calendar is constantly updated day over day. Now the beauty about this is, you get this plan on day 0, and you start executing on it, and if life happens, you can always edit this. So for example, if you wanted this to be a no study day, you can really mark this and save and close it. And as you did that, the plan would adjust by itself. So when life happens, you can adjust that plan overall. Okay. The other thing that we do is, and this is something that we do specifically in quant, is that we have this engine called personalized adaptive course engine, where we take into account what you already know, and we build a custom course for you. And I think the best way to show this is to show, I think, Shrutav's account. So Shrutav is probably the only guy on GMAT Club who's scored an 805 here, and he's a verified score. What you see over here is Shrutav has taken this diagnostic over here. You can see the diagnostic quiz with a concept and a process scale, and based on his diagnostic, the system determined that he did not need to do concept 3 in primes, and it says skip over here. And depending on what you know and what you don't know, you can skip a bunch of things here. Same thing you can really see for LCM and GCD as well. And we've had students who've skipped more than 50 hours on their overall quant course. And then essentially you learn only what you don't know, and that way you focus and you channelize your energy on the right things. Okay. So now, you've gone through the learning phase, you've seen your grades, you've where you had A grades, you skip through, where you had poorer grades, you actually went through there. Now, what do you do next? How do you figure out if your target was to get to a 90th percentile in a particular subsection if you got there? And this is where we have a few things. We have something called cementing, and we have something called your L20 scores. This L20, or what we call as last 20 hard, is a sacred metric for us. Why? Because if you have that metric, it means that you have the potential to do well. Even if you falter on a mock test, we figure out why is it that you weren't able to express that ability, because that L20 metric tells us that you have ability there. So let's go. Let's look at Shrutav's critical reasoning here. You can see his journey grades. You can see, again, 805 guy did not do well always, but started with a B, went to A minus, and B. And then post that, he took cementing quizzes. So you have a sort of medium cementing quizzes, and you can really see his L20 accuracy progression on medium. And then you have hard cementing quizzes here. And you can really see how he went about doing this, and you can really see his L20 accuracy progression on this. An L20 accuracy of 80% is close to 95th to 97th percentile ability. As you get to 85% L20 accuracy, that gets you to 99th percentile ability here. And we track this consistently in our Scholaranium platform. So everything that you do in cementing and going forward is tracked in Scholaranium. And you can always take a look at this over here. So for Shrutav, what you can really see is L20 accuracy in reading comprehension is off the charts. 90% accuracy in 20 hard questions, and 70%. So he's almost, as per our platform, at a V87 here. And on the actual GMAT, he got a perfect V90, of course. The other beauty of this is always last 20, so it's not aggregate across all the questions that he has solved. So if you look at what he has solved 150 hard questions, but this is something that's only on L20, the last 20 hard questions there. So what it means is he might have started with a 50% accuracy on this, but as he improves, the metric improves. So you can track this. Now, one of the other things that we do is do causal analysis. So if, let's say, Shrutav wanted to see how can he improve within CR, how can he improve that L20 hard for 70%? He can look at his block level accuracies, and what you really see is the areas that he's not doing as well are assumption, strengthen, and weaken, as well as paradox and logically complete. He doesn't need to worry about inference and boldface. He's doing really well there, but these are the areas that he needs to focus on. Once he improves this accuracy over there, his L20 accuracy should go up. And it doesn't have a problem on medium questions. It's only on hard questions there. So when you have that level of precision, you can really do round tripping, and you can make that improvement extremely trackable there. Okay. So yeah, this tells you whether you're test ready or not. In terms of the question bank, we have one of the most exhaustive question banks that you're going to see out there by any prep company. We've close to 10,000 total questions, about 6,000 total questions just in Scholaranium, 4,000 on the learning side of it. And believe it or not, our most exhaustive question bank is in DI. So we have upwards of 300 MSR passages, close to 400 RC passages on the platform. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to take up to 100 sectional mocks and up to 5 full-length mocks. And those full-length mocks actually have their own dedicated question bank there. So you always have those. What's the value of this data? Here are some examples here. Students thought that they were strong in area A versus B, and data showed it was the other way around. And when that happens, we are able to make good decisions. We are able to channelize your energy in the right area, and when that happens, your score improvement happens faster. Okay. Outside of the official mocks, I think we're the only prep company that offers a set of 5 full-length mocks in addition to 100 sectional mocks. And one of the things that we do is we benchmark our mocks. And at a sectional level, our mocks are within ±2 on a scale of 90, which honestly is very similar to the accuracy that GMAT claims on their mocks. on the overall score of out of 8 of 5, we are at a plus minus 22 points there, and which again is very, very similar to what you see on on full length mocks. Now, in addition to the scoring precision, these mocks, because they're designed by us, we can give you more insights than what the GMAT can provide, which I think their mocks provide fantastic insights. So we can give you, in addition to giving you your subsectional abilities, your sectional scores, we can also figure out, accuracies by subsection type. We can also tell you questions where you took longer than median, and that comparison is really critical because it can help us figure out whether that score is repeatable or if it's fragile. Okay. Um, and I think last, but probably one of the most critical parts is our support system. So we have this incredible team of strategy experts. If you go read our reviews, you're going to really find a lot of people talking about the LMP program, about the kind of strategy support. Our strategy experts are folks who have extremely deep knowledge of how the GMAT works. And in fact, if you go on Reddit, you see a bunch of the articles that strategy experts write that, and they are data analysts. And they've worked with thousands and thousands of students here. So when they look at your data, they can diagnose why you faltered, where you faltered. They can help build remedial plans there. As you're getting closer to the coach to your exam date, sometimes nervousness sets in, and they can coach you, and sometimes when you become lax, they hold you accountable. Okay. So yeah, our LMP program, which I think an industry first, and then only we offer this last mile push program free of charge as a part of our offering, is something that pushes that score. I think if I were to really say that, it adds at least 30 points to your overall score here. Okay. So yeah, with that, I think that's all that I had. If you guys have any question, I'd be happy to answer those questions. Is there a possibility of Dhruv's question? Yeah, if you want a one-on-one session, yes. I think we have a study plan link. If you request to build a study plan, that's free of charge. Then I think you can talk to a mentor there. Okay. What is L20? L20 is essentially your accuracy on last 20 questions in a particular subsection. So if you think about the GMAT, there are 10 subsections, 2 in verbal, CR and RC, 4 in quant, and 4 in DI. So your accuracy across the last 20. Now, why 20? If you think about it, why not 10? Why not 30? Because when you think about your actual GMAT attempt, in a typical GMAT test, you're going to see about between 6 and 8 hard questions in a particular subsection. So 20 gives us enough statistical evidence that, hey, if your L20 is 70%, in those 7 to 8 questions, you're going to perform at that 70%, give or take, plus minus one question there. 30 becomes too many, your moving average doesn't move as fast, 10 is too few. I can't get a statistical significance there. So yeah, good questions. Let's
Any
see.
other that you would want to take up, Rajat, from this list?
I Please, why don't you read the question out? I'd be happy to.
Uh, okay. Let me just check. Is there any difference between the current offering at 279 USD versus the offering on your website?
No,
Due
no, there's no difference. And that's another good question as well. So all our courses are the same. We offer just one course, and so they only vary by duration. So the offering that you see over here and the offering that you see on our website, as long as it's a 4-month offering, you're going to get exactly the same offering. In fact, once you make a payment and once you buy the course, no one sees how much money you paid. That way, we make sure that your support remains the same. So
Gotcha.
there's only one offering that we have, regardless of whether you buy a 2-month, 4-month, or 6-month package. It's the only variable there is the duration.
Another mentorship service question. Do you get one-on-one if you are already well into your prep and you don't need the academic part?
So again, so the 1:1 mentorship service. So people who are already well into their prep, and if you're already scoring above a certain level, the LMP program is perfect for them. We do that, and honestly, when you do that, what you really see is milestones defined for you, and you get feedback from a mentor along those lines of those milestones, and so think of these milestones as the harness along which that gets you from your current score to your target score, and you have discussions with your mentor around that harness.
Gotcha. Uh, what
The
is your
link doesn't seem to work, Samir is saying. Samir, I can give you my email address there. So, Selvi, if you can share
yeah?
my email address or Sandeep's email address, and if there's not something that's not working, then we can really take a look at it. But that shouldn't happen, honestly.
There's this other question, which is, what is your advice if we reach a sectional plateau? Can we change sections and come back? Any advantages or
Oh yeah,
disadvantages?
that's a great question. It's something that we get a lot. So I think the answer depends on a where is that sectional plateau, because different people have different definition. I'm going to take some case studies around this, and then why do you have a plateau, and I'm going to answer both those questions with some data here. So let's say you're at a verbal 84, which is around the 90th percentile, or a Q85, and you say, hey, don't want to study quant, I don't want to study verbal, I want to move over there. So at that 84 standpoint, I'm happy for you to go from a verbal to a DI, even though your target verbal score may be 87, because you've already learned enough that at an 84 you're not going to forget whatever you've learned. But if the same student said, hey, at a verbal 79, I think I've had a plateau, then I'm going to ask that particular person, actually, even at that 84, I'm going to ask, why do you have a plateau? Where do you need to improve? But at a 79 specifically, I'd say, no, you shouldn't. Why? Because at that point, at a score of 79, you're still at that 55th, 56th percentile, if memory serves me right, which means the methods have not settled. And moving at this point to another subsection or another section there would mean that a lot of the effort that you put to get to that 79, 80 would go wasted. I wouldn't want that. I would rather diagnose why you have a plateau, because there is always, always, always a cause.
Understood. Another question, is there a section specific course since I only want to improve on verbal?
So there is no section specific course there, but people who just want to improve on verbal, we do offer a 1 month offering, and so again, if you write to us, that's what we do. We used to have verbal online. So if you go look at GMAT Club reviews, you look at the older reviews pre 2018, we used to offer a verbal quant online and a GMAT online course. But then what we realized was that people who bought the verbal course, they would say, hey, can I just buy your full length mocks also, because I need them for mocks? And then just managing subscriptions became a mess. So what we said was, we're going to offer this entire course, and if you just need one section, just buy a shorter duration. That way you don't have to bother us for, you get all the resources, you don't have to bother us for one thing or the other, and you end up
Understood.
actually paying slightly less, and we end up spending less money responding to such support emails where I think it's just operational, and we're not adding a whole lot of value.
Makes sense. Could you also discuss the scholarship for the Last Mile Push program?
So this, I mean, Last Mile Push is a program that we've offered since 2020, and it's a program that's offered to diligent students. So if we see that you're consistently working on the platform, you're getting good grades,
Mm-hmm.
then and you are getting to a point where you are close to the test where you need some custom tweaking, so we automatically offer that program, and we offer that program to everyone, and so this is done free of charge. We don't, I mean, typically if you think about the value, the amount of time we spend, we've estimated that's about $500 per student that we do that. But over the years, we've invested in tech to make this a lot more efficient, to reduce our cost over there, and so we now offer it to everyone free of charge. Um, and when you think about what we do with this, and is it offered to everyone, and what about students to whom it's not offered? Do they not get support? They absolutely get support there. If you write to our team and say, this is where I'm struggling, you're going to really get a phenomenal response where you'll see people uh, who dig down into the last quiz that you've taken. They'll look at the timing across questions, and then they'll kind of zone out or zoom out, and they'll say, okay, at a macro level, what is it that you're doing? So you definitely do that there. It's just that for those guys, the LMP doesn't make sense because they are still fixing their bigger holes. The LMP is designed to fix, to fine tune that last mile, which is why the last mile push program. So as you
Understood.
get to the last mile, everyone gets the LMP program there.
Understood. Well, Rajat, we are on time. Is there any last minute tips or advice you'd like to give to our audience?
Yes, I think one thing that I'd say is, you guys, those of you studying for the GMAT, it's the test by itself is not super hard, but the fact that you have to study along with working full time is something that's extremely hard, and I appreciate the hard work that you guys are putting in. There will be times when you'd feel like giving up. Just at those times, remember why you're doing this. What career jump are you trying to make? What future are you trying to make? And trust me, everyone has bad days. Those who get back after those bad days are the ones who change their life and who change lives of others. So yeah, keep learning, keep focused, stay focused on what you want to achieve, and if you do that, you'd get to your target GMAT score.
Thank you so much, Rajat, for your time. Thank you guys for watching. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Sadhi.